Kristi Noem just made an urgent Halloween threat, and reporters were stunned. The spark was a simple request. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker asked federal officials to pause immigration raids for Halloween night. His point was common sense. On a night when children and parents fill sidewalks in costumes and masks, large enforcement sweeps can trigger confusion, panic, and even violence. Parades, trunk or treat gatherings, neighborhood block parties, and crowded streets do not mix well with tactical teams. That was his argument. Kristi Noem, now serving as Secretary of Homeland Security, rejected that request. Not only did she reject it, she signaled the opposite. She said enforcement would continue. She said operations would be out in full force. She said activity would increase to keep families safe. She framed it as protection for kids and grandkids. She leaned into tough talk about violent criminals. She promised to defend the laws, to protect neighborhoods, and to ignore what she called lies from Pritzker. She told her television host that if the governor did not like the law, he could try to change it. But she and her teams would be on the streets. Then came her morning press availability. Reporters asked about the growing number of stories that legal residents and even citizens had been caught up in raids and stops. Noem did not hedge. She did not say mistakes sometimes happen. She did not admit that even one case had slipped through. She said there were no arrests or detentions of American citizens. She said any report to the contrary was false. She thanked the press and closed it down. If you heard that claim and felt your stomach drop, you are not alone. Because within hours, a citizen stepped forward with a fresh story. Jency Machado described how he drove to work in Manassas, Virginia, along Loman Drive. Agents boxed in his pickup. They jumped out, guns in hand. They ordered him to turn off the engine. They told him to hand over his keys. They told him to open the window. It all moved fast. He says the agents named a different man. They said they had a deportation order for that person. That man, he says, used Machado's home address. Machado told them the truth. That was not his name. He did not know the person they were after. He tried to show what should have ended the incident. His real ID-compliant Virginia license, the card with the star, the one that requires proof of lawful status. He says they did not look. Not at first. They cuffed him. They asked him how he entered the country. They asked if he had a case pending. He told them he was an American citizen. The situation resolved only after precious minutes in handcuffs and fear he will not forget. Local reporters put a camera on him. They recorded his words. The details were specific. The location, the sequence, the real ID star, the fact that the agents were looking for someone else, the fact that they still detained him anyway, the fact that he is a citizen. The story spread. This is why sweeping denials strain credibility. Wrong person arrests, and wrongful detainers do not happen every day everywhere. But they happen enough that you do not answer a question about them by saying never. Not if you want the public to believe you when it matters. This is where the Halloween element turns into a real-time stress test. Costumes hide faces. Masks blur identities. Groups of kids and parents flow through the same spaces, where unmarked vehicles may roll and plainclothes personnel might move. If a team is already making identification errors in broad daylight on a weekday commute, what happens when the streets are dim, the noise is loud, and half the town is dressed like someone else? That is not an attack on law enforcement. That is risk math. Confusion plus high stakes equals danger. Let's be honest about the political theater. Kristi Noem thrives in it. She loves an image, the camouflage, the command stance, the talk about peace and safety and criminals who need to be removed. She also leans into confrontation. She did not sidestep Pritzker's jab. She did not diffuse it. She escalated. She said he was lying. She promised to surge. She carried the fight to a national audience. This is her style. But the performance comes with a policy cost. Once you promise a surge on a night like Halloween, you own whatever happens next. Every stop, every mistaken identity. Every clip that goes viral from a dark street where a kid screams because an adult in a mask with a badge grabbed their uncle. You own the outcomes because you rejected the pause and chose the show of force. Now, let's talk about the citizen piece again, because this is the hinge. Noem's message stands or falls on two pillars. First, that agents are focused on violent offenders who endanger communities. Second, that they are not sweeping up citizens and legal residents. The first claim is a goal most people endorse. No one wants murderers or predators on the block. The second claim is where trust gets tested. It does not matter how many times a spokesperson repeats the phrase worst of the worst. If citizens keep showing up with their stories, the denial backfires. It invites the press to line up the cases and play them one after another. The people with passports, the people with birth certificates, the people with naturalization papers, the people with the real ID star. The pattern may not be large, but if it is visible, the denial is a mistake. This is why names matter. The story has named people: Governor J.B. Pritzker, Secretary Kristi Noem, Rose Bellis Kenyon, the local reporter who spoke to Machado first and pushed the story into daylight. These are the people at the center of the narrative. When you hear their names, you can trace the line from the press conference to the street stop to the television segment to your neighborhood. Here is the operational problem behind the politics. Immigration enforcement relies on identity. Identity relies on data. Data breaks in predictable ways. Old records, similar names, shared addresses, language confusion. A lead that is good enough to knock on a door, but not good enough to cuff the person walking out to go to work. Add in the speed of field operations and the pressure to show results, and you get errors. Most agencies know this. The smart ones institute strict confirm and verify steps. They require multiple checks before restraints go on. They build in off-ramps. This is not softness. This is professionalism. You can be tough and precise. You can be decisive and correct. You can arrest the person you are after without trampling the rights of the person who is not. That brings us back to the Halloween surge. What would smart enforcement look like tonight if the department insists on proceeding? First, clear visual identification. Agents should be unmistakable, even in low light. Second, narrow targeting windows. If you have a high-confidence warrant service, do it away from parades and trunk or treat lots. Third, pause on large public-facing sweeps. The goal is to reduce contact with uninvolved families. Fourth, record everything. Body cameras on, vehicles tagged, timestamps logged. If a mistake happens, documentation is the only path to accountability. Fifth, community alerts. Work with local police so neighborhoods understand where enforcement will be active. That reduces fear and rumors. None of this weakens law enforcement. It strengthens it. Now, let us talk directly to families. If you will be out with kids tonight, have a plan. Carry your identification. If you are a citizen, carry proof that is easy to show. If you are a lawful resident, have your card. Keep your phone charged. If you witness anything that looks like an enforcement action, move children away from the immediate area. Do not crowd. Do not shout. Do not escalate. If you are approached, ask calmly whether you are being detained. Ask what agency the person represents. Ask for a badge or identification. If you do not understand what is happening, say you do not understand. If you need an interpreter, say you need an interpreter. If you are a citizen or a legal resident, say so clearly and present your identification. If you are a bystander, do not interfere. Film from a safe distance if your local laws permit. Make sure you are not obstructing. If you are an agent out there tonight and you hear this, you know the stakes. You do not want an error on your watch. You do not want a child to watch a parent hauled off in front of a parade because the lead pointed to the wrong person. You do not want your own safety compromised because a crowd panicked and someone made a terrible choice. You want quiet, professional, correct operations. That is the standard the country expects. That is the standard your best colleagues set every day. There is also a story about credibility and how it is spent. Leaders earn it drop by drop and lose it by the bucket. When Kristi Noem says there have been no arrests or detentions of citizens and the public can see video and read affidavits that show otherwise, she spends credibility fast. The next time she gives a safety message, the same reporters will push harder and the same parents will trust less. The denial may win a soundbite today. It may rally a base online, but it weakens the foundation that governing depends on. People can accept hard truth. They cannot accept obvious falsehood. There is a broader civic lesson here too. Halloween is a ritual of joy. It works because communities cooperate. Neighbors check in. Parents look out for kids who are not theirs. Police close a street for an hour so children can zigzag safely. Small courtesies add up to a night of wonder. When politics insists on turning that night into a stage for muscle flexing, it steals something from all of us. It does not make us safer. It makes us smaller. There are other nights to run a surge. There are better ways to prove you are tough. Restraint is also strength. Let's return to the characters and hold them to their own words. Governor J.B. Pritzker asked for a pause, and he framed it as protection for children. You can agree or disagree with his policies, but the logic is straightforward. Secretary Kristi Noem said no and promised increased activity. She said her mission was to protect families. If that is true, the guidance to her team should match the mission. Tight focus on known violent offenders. Minimal footprint around public celebrations. Public assurance that plainclothes officers will identify themselves on approach. Immediate correction and apology when mistakes occur. Transparent after-action reports. If she does all that, she will still take political heat. But she will have evidence to show that the department balanced safety and liberty. If she does not do that, if she instead chooses spectacle, then she owns the fallout. What about the media voices that carried this story across the country? Political theater will push leaders to declare absolutes. Real life will present exceptions. Good policy finds a way to tell the truth about the exceptions. It admits the risk. It invests in prevention. It apologizes and repairs when harm occurs. It does not hide behind sound bites. It does not smear critics as liars when they can produce named people with documented experiences.